All right, everybody, it's time. Welcome to TDX Day 2. Thank you for joining me bright and early. I am Christy Brown. I'm a solution architect at Slalom. I identify as all of these things, but before I was those things, I was an awesome admin just like you guys, sitting in this chair. Long before I had 28 certifications, I was just sitting here hoping to get the most out of the platform with tools that I already had access to. So hopefully that's what I can impress upon you guys today. And let's get to that. So we're going to go through kind of the problem with AI without context and walk through a use case today. And I'm actually going to build it out. I pre-recorded all of these demos, so I'm going to hang out over here with you, and it's going to be a little awkward to not be moving my hands. So I might try to do that and look a little weird, but it'll be okay. We're going to start with Maya. Maya is a support agent. She manages a global queue. She's constantly guessing when to send emails. Sometimes she's hitting people in the middle of the night. I feel like in my 15 or so years of Salesforce, this is people talk about this all the time, how time zones are just ridiculously hard to get into Salesforce. I was talking to my buddy Brad last night at our slalom party. He is a sales guy. His territory is everything west of Texas. It's 4 time zones. It's hard to manage, right? So this is actually pretty easy to do. This is the use case we're going to talk about, how to pull time zones into Salesforce using external services. So kind of a solution overview here. We're going to be exposing some time zone data. We're going to be using the account to do this. We're going to be able to display local time, showing the local time for these customers. We're going to flag after hours and suggest some optimal send times. And we're going to do all of this using an Agentforce action. So these are the different things that we're going to walk through. So first, we don't want to be managing any big lookup objects or anything. So we're going to use an API for this. I found this one, ipgeolocation.io. It's got a free tier. It was great for this demo that I'm doing. Obviously, if you're finding a public API to use, read the reviews, make sure you read the documentation, make sure you understand the pricing tiers, especially if you're hooking this up to AI so that you understand what that cost is going to be eventually. If you guys want to use this, I highly recommend it. It was really easy to plug in and play. Of course, there's tons of APIs out there for the same thing. Google has a time zone API, and there's lots of APIs for lots of things, for weather, for shipping, for medical information. Lots of different ways that you can plug into information other than just time zone, of course. The next thing we need to do is start with an external credential. And this is where we're going to safely authenticate to our external service with our API. And this is where we're really centralizing the security within Salesforce. And this enables us to reuse this information and be able to scale and stay compliant. And so we're going to go ahead and create this. So external credentials are actually nested under named credentials in Salesforce in setup. So we're going to search for named credentials in our quick find. And once this pops up, it's going to be our second tab here. And I'm going to click new. Super awkward to not be doing this at the same time. And everything that I do today, I'm going to name time zone just for consistency. And of course, if I was doing this for Reels, I would also do that. For authentication protocol, there's lots of options here. I'm going to choose no authentication and click save. And I have my external credential. That's literally all we need to do here. I'm going to scroll down to principal and click new. A principal as part of an external credential is what we create to give users access to use this external credential. So I'm just going to name this principal and click save. Now, I said that this is what we use to give people access to this. So the next thing we need to do is create a permission set. You can create a new permission set. You can add it to an existing permission set. You could add this to a profile. I am on the bandwagon where we should be using permission sets and permission sets groups going forward. I'm just going to create a new permission set for this. I'm going to call it time zone API access. Should probably give it a description, but I didn't. The important thing here is that the setting we're looking for is external credential principal access. That's the permission that we want. We're going to click into that. And then if we click edit here, we'll see the principal access that we just created, and we can move that to the right and click save. And the big thing, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I'm creating permission sets, I never remember to actually assign them to myself. So I'm going to just assign this to myself real quick, and I won't make you watch that part. If you guys were doing this for reals, you would probably just add this to a permission set group to assign it to your users. Now, the next thing we need to do is create a named credential. So again, back in our quick find, we're going to search for named credential again. Click named credential. We're going to click new. And named credential is really where we're specifying the API information, the endpoint that we're going to be hitting. So here again, we're going to be typing time zone, give it an API name. The URL, in this case, for our time zone API is going to be api.ipgeolocation.io, which I will type in this box like magic. Very slowly, apparently. And then here we can see that we need to fill in the external credential that we've created, time zone, of course. And then the rest of this we can just leave as is. Depending on the external service and different settings that you might need to fill out, there are other options here, of course, but this is all we need to do for this example. So we've just created our external credential. We've assigned ourselves permission to use that, and we've created a named credential all in like 1 minute here. So easy peasy so far. The next thing we need to do is create our external service. And the external service is really our blueprint for how we're going to interact with this API, the IP geolocation API. And this is a JSON or YAML document that's really, and I'll show you an example, of course, that is no code. It is flow ready. It's going to outline exactly the operations, the inputs and the outputs that Salesforce is going to interact with when it sends a request to this API. I put a link down here, and I'll show it again at the end of the documentation, but I did provide a copy of the specification that I'm going to use as part of the demo that you can copy and paste if you want to try this later. All right, so let's go ahead and create this external service. Again, in the quick find, going to search for external service, of course. I like this just dashboard that it shows you how many you have, any limits that you're doing. We're going to search add an external service. Click add an external service, of course. We've got one option here, so we're going to click it. Click next. And then again, we're going to follow our same naming convention, time zone. And just a special note here that this is an API name, not a label. So if I add a space or something, I'll get an error. I'm going to add a description. And with these external services, we do want to be fairly descriptive so that we can keep track of what all these external services are actually doing. For our service schema, we're going to do complete schema because we're going to add a complete document outlining what this API will be doing. And then we're going to select our named credential that we just created. All right, so for this schema, this is where we're going to copy and paste the document, that blueprint that I just talked about. So I'm going to go to that blog page that I just mentioned. Maybe. Gonna go there, I swear. Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. So here's an example of the document. So here's just the page that it's on. So here's an example of what this schema looks like. So I said that it's no code, and it certainly looks like code, right? But this is an example of a YAML document. This is an Open API specification. We can see that it's in Open API 3.0.3. It's got information like the title, the version, the description of this API. It has the server information, so the exact URL that it's hitting. And then under this, it's got the different paths. So the different endpoint that it's hitting. So this is hitting the V2 time zone endpoint. And then our different operations. So this operation is the get time zone by location, which has these different parameters. So we've got an API key, which is required, a location that is marked as required. It has examples of the different formats that you can send these inputs in. And then under these inputs, it has our responses. So this is what we're going to be getting back from this API. So we've got different location information, latitudes, longitudes, time zone information, again, outlining every little thing that we can send to this API and get back from this API, all laid out for us so that Salesforce knows exactly how we can interact with this API. So we're just going to copy and paste all of this. And again, you do not have to write all of this from scratch. These APIs provide this documentation. You can use AI to help generate this documentation if it's in the wrong format. Lots of different ways to generate this to make sure that you have what you need. Once you've pasted it, we'll hit save and next. Now, we had that one operation listed in the document, so it's available here to select. So we'll just check the box saying, yes, we want to use this operation. This is what's going to make it available for us to use in Flow and other areas of Salesforce. It'll just give us a quick summary, and then we'll hit finish. And now this external service is ready for us to use, which is pretty incredible in, 4 minutes. All right, so now that we've got our external service created and a way to access it with our named credential, now we need to be able to use it. And we're gonna do that via Flow, of course. So we said that we wanna do all this using Agentforce. Agentforce needs to have an auto-launched flow to access this external service. Through that auto-launch flow, we're going to use the external service to retrieve this real-time location. I also threw on here that you could use a record-triggered flow. I think if you're not already using Agentforce, you could also use this same functionality to use a record-triggered flow to just stamp current time zone on your account records, on your contact records, on a case record, anywhere, right? You don't have to use this just for Agentforce. So just wanted to throw that out there because same functionality is useful in a lot of different places. So we're gonna build this auto-launch flow. I have started a little further here. So basically I've just already gotten the city and the state. I'm adding the external action here, or the external service rather. So we'll see our two inputs that we specified. We need to add our API key and our location. Now, I added the API key here so that we can see it, but you would never actually put the API key in a flow. That's not a secure place to put it. We would normally send it as part of the named credential. Just putting it here so that we can see it in the flow debug and see it all working. So we will actually go and copy that from the API dashboard and paste it in. This is what that dashboard looks like. You can see everything that you're using. We're just going to copy and paste it right in there. Again, do not do this at home. Apparently, I didn't turn off my Teams notifications. That's exciting. Please ignore. All right, now we need to add a variable for our location. So we saw that we needed to format those variables as city, state. You could also send a country if you were global. So we're just going to give this a name, and then we need to structure this as city, state to make this plain text. And we're just going to grab shipping from the account. Shipping city, shipping state. And click done. Perfect. Now, since this is an external service, there is a chance that it could fail, right? Something could go wrong. So we need to make sure that we're handling those errors. Otherwise, if the agent hits an error, it might just make something up. It could hallucinate. Who knows what it will do. So we want to add a fault path. We want to add an assignment here, and we want to be able to send an actual error message to the agent so that it knows what to do. So basically an extra instruction. So we're just going to add another variable here for an error message so that the agent knows that, hey, we couldn't find the current time zone. We want to make sure that that's available for output so that the agent can access that. And apparently when I recorded these demos, I talked a lot slower in my head. All right, and then we can just set a value for this. Hey, we weren't able to find the current local time or time zone for this account. Okay. All right, so now we have our external service. We have a fault message. Now we need to be able to send our agent two variables. So we want to send it the time zone, and we want to send it the current local time. So we want to do another assignment element here. And we're going to create two more variables and set those two variables based off of our external service results. So we'll add some instructions here. First, we'll do local time. And these can all just be text variables. Again, make sure they're available for output so that the agent can access them. And all of these will flow into the agent action when we set that up next. We're going to use the outputs straight from that external service action. They'll live under this 200 success code. And we can see that we have our location and our time zone returns that were specified in that document in our schema. And these are all of the different things that we have to choose from. So for local time, we were to choose time_12, which is the 12-hour time formatted. Lots of different things that you can return, though, and play with and use in your org. And then we're just going to do the same thing for time zone. Do we need both of them? Maybe not, but I did both. Again, just text and make sure it's available for output. And again, this is going to be outputs from the get time zone external service behind that 200 success code from the time zone return. And then here we're looking for time zone name. So it'll be this name variable here. And since we're using this in an agent action letter later, I'm actually going to go back into these variables. I'm going to give them descriptions since we didn't. And once we get to that agent action, we can talk more about why that is. The agent actions actually use everything that you're giving it. So names, descriptions, it uses and looks at everything. So it's important to have everything filled in. So I'm just going to make sure that everything has a description. Perfect. All right, and this is all we need to do for this flow. I'm going to save it, just give it a name. I'm going to call it Agentforce Get Time Zone so that I can easily find it. Perfect. All right. We will get it activated. Okay. So since this is an auto-launched flow, this is super reusable. So I mentioned before that we could add this to a record-triggered flow if you wanted to fill this time zone data on records in your account. You could use this in a screen flow to pop the current time whenever a case opens something. And again, you can use the same functionality for any API, any functionality. So I would love for you guys to do some brainstorming about how this could be useful in your own orgs. Not right now. All right, time to get to our agent action. So we're not going to do all of these things. We're going to focus on number one. But I did try to think of some other ways that just this time zone stuff could be useful. So we're going to focus on number one, the guardrails. So, hey, I'm trying to send an email. I find that AI never tells you no. So if I'm trying to send an email at midnight, it'll say, okay, yeah, let's do it. But I want it to say, let's wait until 9 a.m. or something. But you could use it to also maybe prompt for the best time to send messages. You could use it for case routing, maybe adding the correct business hours to cases. Lots of different ways that you could use this functionality. All right, let's get to our agent. All right, so I have activated this flow. I am going to go into Agentforce Studio. So we can get there from setup or from the app launcher. I'm going to get there from setup. Just going to Agentforce agents. Of course, make sure that Agentforce is actually enabled. For this demo, I'm just using the employee agent. So all I did was click new agent and use the templated employee agent. It didn't make any other changes to it. So if you're going to try this later, that's the button I chose. All right, let me click into my agent here. All right. I recorded this a couple weeks ago before topics were renamed sub-agents. So that'll look different once you get here. All right, so remember, you could just prompt over here and ask Agentforce to do this for you. I had some mixed results when doing that. I had a lot of errors that I then had to go diagnose inside of AgentScript. So I had better results when I just came into the canvas and added instructions directly myself. So that's, I guess, what I recommend at the moment. So to add our instruction, and if you go back to our helper document here, I've added a prompt here that you can copy and paste if you want, if you play with this later. So I'm going to copy this. It basically just says, hey, if you're going to do any time-bound activities, always run this flow first. So if I put my cursor at the bottom of these instructions, click enter, I can add another instruction here, and I'm just going to paste that right in. And then at the bottom, for actions, I need to add our flow that we just created. So I'm going to create a custom action to add our flow. We're going to say get time zone. We're going to give it a description. Okay, so now we have this action. We need to connect it to our flow. So for reference action type, we're going to select flow. For reference action, we're going to select our get time zone flow. And then we can see that all of our inputs and outputs that we created in our flow are here. And you can see that all of our descriptions have also pulled in, and those are required as part of this action. So if we set them in the flow, it saves us a little bit of time here. Now, we want to set the required input to execute action, which was our account ID, which I didn't show as part of the flow before. I'm also showing, checking the show in conversation for those output variables, because I want the agent to show the time zone and current time. And I did not add a description for the time zone error in the flow, so I now need to add it here. And then under additional settings here, you have the option to show loading text. So you could add something like, hey, I'm looking up the time zone, but I don't think that that's really necessary. So we're going to uncheck that. And now we've got our agent action. So all there is to it is saying, hey, use this flow, make sure all of your descriptions are there, and then hit save. That looks good. And I'm just going to show that again. So we're going to go to another topic here, or sub-agent, if you will. So we're just going to hit enter to add another instruction, paste it in. And then once you have an action already created, you can just select it from a list. We have a mapping here, so we can set our variable to be our current record ID. So I'm just assuming that we're going to be on an account record here. And then we can go back and set that first one that we didn't set. And it's actually the left caret that we choose to get that. Okay. Hit save. And then I've actually added this to this topic selector too, because this had every other available action here. So I added it as an action here too. And again, just selecting it from the menu, mapping the variable to the current record ID, and then we can save and commit this agent and then test this thing out. All right, we're going to activate this. All right, so now I am on an account page. I have a shipping address entered because remember we're requiring a location here. I have this set as Tasmania because I was trying desperately to find a time zone that would be out of touch. So I can now ask my agent, hey, should I reach out to this person right now? And I realize now that I asked the most random question in the world that Maya, my support agent, would probably never answer. But I'm saying, hey, I want to invite this person to a beach cleanup. Is now a good time to send it. And it's now running our action, our external service, and it's come back, hey, the local time for this customer is actually 7:44 in the morning. That's outside of standard business hours. And is 15 minutes a big deal? Probably not, but I think you guys get the gist of it. And then it goes on to say, would you like a reminder or suggestion for a better time to send it? And then we can go on from there. So this whole process, which has taken 30 minutes to set up from start to finish, has now introduced guardrails for sending customer information to not only protect customers' time and energy, but our time and energy, and hopefully get better reply rates, but also help our agents understand when to contact people. All right, so we exposed time zone data. We have displayed their local time. We have flagged after hours and suggested optimal send times, and we were able to do all that by triggering an agent action. So Maya's super happy. She doesn't have to guess anymore and can see exactly when to send things. So next steps, definitely try it out. If you go to my blog, not a shameless plug, I have step-by-step instructions for all of it on that page, walk through with screenshots and everything. And then please just think about how you could use the same type of functionality, time zones or not, in your orgs, and Agentforce or not. I think external services are very powerful for connecting data to your org and bringing in the context that you're missing. And that's it, folks. I'm here for questions or anything if you have any. And if you didn't get your free coffee or anything yet, there it is.